Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Today I wanted to talk about a couple different things, mostly because our culture is a little weird, and I'm titling this, The 2A Has Nothing to Do with Hunting, because I've looked at a lot of things at the New Mexico Roundhouse, and they keep bringing up hunting. So do most politicians right now. And if anything, we need to understand that they don't understand what the hell they're talking about. When I say that, let's talk about during the 1700s, when our country was founded, in 1787, 1776, when we split off. The American people were allowed, or an American citizen was allowed to have the same firearm that our military had. Fast forward a little bit farther down the road, we actually were hiring privateers that actually had better firearms than we did because they could afford them. So nowhere in the Second Amendment was it ever about hunting. So Biden can keep talking about, deer don't have killer vests. Well, absolutely not. And that's not exactly what the 2A is about. It's never been about that. Hunting's always been about putting food on the table. The 2A has always been about keeping ourselves safe and our country safe. And if you don't believe that's a big deal, look at what's happened in Ukraine. Ukraine's been out there messing around, they literally handed out fully automatic Kalashnikov rifles, and now they're handing out M4s and M16s, A4s, directly to their populace to stop the Russians from invading. But as we talk about the 2A all the time, it gets boring about the politics part of it. So I thought I'd introduce some culture issues because I think it's hilarious. It's hilarious to think that our press secretary for the president has to deny UFOs or aliens being in these balloons that have been shot down. Now, there's a lot of things that I suspect is weird about this, and I've talked about this a little bit to my friends. I think, personally, the first balloon was let to see what it could see. In the 60s, during the height of the Cold War, we did a lot of that with satellites so the Russians could see what we had to kind of make us seem a little more honest and to be a little more forthright. But in addition to that, I have a strong feeling that our intelligence community was watching this balloon the first one anyway, in every intent on getting as much intelligence from it, signals intelligence. As long as that thing's in the air, it's emitting signals that can be traced, tracked, and figured out what the hell they are. And then waiting for it to be shot down. So finding out the size of the first balloon, it was roughly the size of a school bus. And it's leaving something like, it's left 15 football fields worth of debris in the ocean east of South Carolina, or in South Carolina. And that's a big deal, because if they'd shot it down, what would have happened on the United States itself? What would have fallen? What would have hit people? We don't know what it actually had on it. So let's do some intelligence and see what the hell's going on. That's one thing. But now we're up to 3 if you read some stories, 4 if you read another. And people are asking, and some of these they're saying that there's some jamming that's been happening to our fighter jets or planes that are in the area when this happens. One of these things was shot down over Lake Huron in the United States. That's nuts. A bigger story that I think we should all be watching about, because the government lies to us already, and they're already hiding this one, but they'll go after your guns. So that's why I'm saying the 2A is not about hunting. It's about protecting us, and you seem to be, when I say you, the you I'm referring to are, the government. There is a phosgene cloud in Ohio after a train wreck. Now, being the historian that I am, I know what phosgene is. Phosgene was a chemical agent used in World War I because it's a dense enough gas that when it hits trenches, it settles in there. So it's guaranteed to kill the people that are there. That's what was used for in World War I. So this thing, along with propylene glycols, the other one that, that's kind of not a thing, not to worry about. hydrogen chloride, which is hydrochloric acid. That could be a little corrosive. That could be some issues I could definitely see it being long-term not a good thing to be around, especially if you've ever been around it in a like a lab setting. It is a reactant. It is very much used in industry for everything, so is propylene glycol. Phosgene, however, I think it's only made and used for vinyls and stuff. But why I'm bringing this up on a 2A podcast is this story is being killed. This is a meme, of course, that I have put up. That's, the famous cancerous but mostly peaceful environmental disaster. Let me give you some background here. This train derailed in Ohio, in Lebanon, Ohio. They couldn't move this, so there was a lot of chemicals already on this, and they were already leaking out, so they started burning them. Immediately, the EPA comes out and says, "Oh, don't worry about the burn off. It's the air is good quality, and you'll be okay." That sets off bells and whistles to me after 9/11, because that's what they said to 9/11 people, and then we found out there was tons of asbestos and bad stuff, and people were getting cancer later. This is the government lying to you again. So why should I trust the government for my defense, let alone give my rights up for them to lie to me about something this bad? Now, this thing has a potential to get into the water system in a lot of states in the east, down to Tennessee from Ohio and all the other stuff. And the cloud that is produced from this burn is going as far east as Maryland. And that's a huge cloud, and that's a huge population center. I don't know, because I'm not as good at chemistry as I once was. I don't know what the composition is in the air that would cause it to break down, or how it breaks down over time. We wouldn't have used it in World War I without it having some sort of shelf life after it had been launched. So I'm curious to see how long it would take before, the sun, wind, maybe rain has some chemical effect on this phosgene agent and breaks it up. But if the government's willing to lie about this stuff, why is my AR-15 or my AK or my pistol that had a brace on it, doesn't anymore, as far as they're concerned, because it fell into the lake with my tragic boating accident. The one gun that I'm willing to give up because it was just a toy anyway. But if they're willing to lie about this, what else are they going to lie about? Okay, we're not getting into the politics of the Hunter Biden story. We're not going anywhere else. You can find this stuff on Twitter, and you can find it on news sites. These pictures are from Timcast, and the one for the balloons is. The other one is from Twitter, naturally. But it makes me look at this stuff with even more of a discerning eye, because what are they lying to us about? And why are they so hot and heavy right now about taking my guns and the guns of American citizens who didn't do anything wrong? We've always been on the up and up. We aren't the criminals. We didn't go after people. We didn't lock people down. We haven't forced our identity or the way we think on anybody. We've just tried to leave everyone alone and just exist. But it seems that this is a problem for the government at the federal level and at the state level. And in New Mexico, they continue to grind away at taking away our guns. And if you read the actual bills, holy crap. One of the bills, House Bill 9, or House Bill, it's the House Bill 100, I believe it is. It's the one where they were talking, or House Bill 72, one of the two. I'm getting them messed up. One of them's for a 14-day wait for firearms, which we've had before, had no effect on crime in New Mexico. The other one, which I believe is House Bill 72, is fully or semi-automatic converter devices. So they mean bump stocks, echo triggers. Specifically listed in the bill, after reading it very clearly, is full auto sears and what are colloquially known as Glock switches. So these are those wish switches that have the conversion set to actually make a full auto Glock turn a Glock 17 or a 19 into a Glock 18 is what basically happens. Those are already illegal. You cannot own them. If you own one of these devices, a full auto sear or one of those switches, you are now into a territory called constructive conspiracy. It means that you're going to build an NFA item that is going to be illegal because you cannot build fully automatics. You can't do that. You couldn't do that since 1986. So for them to waste the time and energy to put this into a New Mexico bill, and then the stupidity of the people that are actually, I'm calling them stupid because the people that are actually writing these things, this lady is supposed to be a professional, like a gun expert. How the hell does she not understand that an auto sear is already illegal? A switch for the Glock pistols is already illegal. You can't get them more illegal. Murder is already illegal. You can't put someone behind bars for murder more because they did more than kill someone. Murder is illegal. That's the thing I don't understand with these crime things. But these leftists, especially in New Mexico, like to go after these add-on bills. Now, when I say add-on bills, you get stopped for speeding. They happen to see you have a braced pistol in your back seat. It wouldn't happen that way, but just say they did. You now would, the law enforcement agents in New Mexico would then use that as an excuse to search your car, illegally, by the way, because you do have a thing called the Fourth Amendment, your right to search and seizure. The next thing they would do is they would add that charge to anything else they could find. And the idea is that they can put you away for a longer time frame. That's how the red flag law was supposed to work, according to the awesome chief of police in APD, the one that's having the raging crime problem right now, but sees, let's put more laws on the books so I can unenforce them too. That's how I see New Mexico law enforcement nowadays. There's a lot of good guys. Again, I give Shane a lot of crap, the San Juan County Sheriff, because he didn't back down, or he backed down when state PD came up here. But at the same time, he's also one of those people that's not backing this stuff, and he's trying to get the sheriff's departments or the sheriff's association to back us in this fight. He usually does a pretty good job. I still want to hold him to the fire because he can do better. I just know the guy is that much better. But it goes to the level of skill we're fighting. We can't have a conversation, an honest conversation about firearms when they tell us high-capacity magazines are a thing. For one, they're not. They're standard capacity. Or they call them a clip. Or they call it an assault weapon when it's just a modern sporting rifle. And yeah, I am using semantics there for a reason. They're trying to say that our rights can't evolve. If that's the case, then, they tell us all the time we need to use muzzle loaders because that's what the original Second Amendment was about. No, it was always about having the same parity as American forces so that we could stop tyranny. We didn't kick King George out of the United States or leave King George behind to sit here and end up, 247 or 249 years, I forget which one it is, in the future, where we're going to have to fight one of the presidents for this stuff. Now, I blame Trump for a lot of this because he used the executive branch and the ATF to get right at this type of thing, and that's what Biden's been doing to this point. But he's also been going after legislative pieces. Just like our governor, he's made a call to the House and to the Senate to try to get assault weapons bans and everything else passed at the national level. What I want to know is how people can do that when one of the biggest decisions ever put down, the Heller decision, said that you actually couldn't ban guns in common use. Well, the AR-15 is America's rifle. It is the gun that you can use it for defense, you can use it for hunting, and there are multiple calibers for the thing, so it has a lot of versatility. Plus, take a new shooter out, hand them a Glock pistol or a 1911, see how they do with it, then hand them an AR-15. See what happens. It'll be instant. They'll be able to hit their target better. It's because there's more points of contact. There's less recoil. There's less that's going to go wrong where you're going to have to squeeze a trigger in a very tight, complete pack, like a pistol. So it makes no sense to me that you would take the one tool that is guaranteed to stop a bad dude in his tracks or a bad lady from infringing upon your existence and putting them squarely away. The only thing that makes sense to me is that they want you disarmed for a reason. They have a plan for something worse. And after, I wasn't a huge conspiracy nut to think that was a thing until, after COVID. That's when my status eyes got open and I was like, wait a minute. If this was fake, what the hell else is? You cannot go after something that's ingrained in American culture. We've been shooting, hunting since the country has existed. It makes no sense to go after something that you say it's about hunting. It's never been about hunting. It never will be about hunting. Californians don't hunt, but there are damn sure a lot of gun owners there that are fighting the fight behind the blue iron wall like I'm trying to do here in New Mexico. I'm curious as to what the crime statistics are between leftist-held states and states that are freer. Because if you hadn't heard, Firearms Policy Coalition has just issued another lawsuit, and it's in North Dakota, but 25 other states signed on with it as co-plaintiffs against the ATF's unconstitutional attempt to ban pistol braces. New Mexico naturally isn't on it because we have a leftist governor and we have a leftist government, and they will do anything to screw the American people, New Mexicans, because that's what they're all about. Their idea is to keep us compliant and keep us addicted to the government so that we need them. In reality, we never have. And more, they're finding that out. And that's why there's more of a rebellion growing than they're used to. There's enough people now, left and right, that are starting to perk up and say, hey, wait a minute. You lied to us. You lied to us time and time again. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's been happening our entire lives. So the only difference now is we've got the knowledge set and the access to other media platforms to find those actual facts. Now people will tell you, though, that's misinformation. Is it really? Why is the government telling the news outlets to hide the story about Ohio? That could impact millions of people. One way or another, it could kill them, could hurt them, whatever. Why are they not talking about this? Why are they not covering it? Why is it that you have to go jump through alternative media, and when you do find it ever, it's like on page 2, okay? This stuff on Timcast, he blurs it out everywhere. That's why I like him. Let me do a quick search for Fox News. Not a big fan of Fox News, but it's better than CNN. Let's see if they have anything that says about the... Okay, I'm still scrolling. Let's see. Manhunt in Michigan. F-16 failed to take down a mystery object flying over U.S. with first missile. So, about that. It's curious that we're using missiles to shoot down balloons, because don't you have to have a heat signature or a radar cross-section to lock onto a missile, or from a missile to actually hit it with a missile? That's why I was wondering why we didn't just use 20mm or 30mm shells from these guns. Teenage Nightmare. So the CDC also released something else now that I'm seeing this. Dr. Siegel's urgent warning to parents after shocking CDC suicide report. Suicide rates went up after COVID. Imagine that. Taking vulnerable kids and locking them away for 2.5, 3 years, and you expect nothing to happen to them. Nothing. Fair. We know that's bullcrap. So Fox News doesn't even have anything about the story about the wreck in Ohio, the train wreck, that is causing the gas to flow around and kill people, or will kill people, and is getting in the water. Phosgene is not an easy thing to mess around with, or is not a good thing to mess around with. And it makes no sense that nobody is talking about this except for a few people. And the media blogosphere that is alternative media. You know, the guys that are always marked and flagged as misinformation. That's not correct. That's not even close to correct. That's how leftists think. And they're a cult. Blue no matter who, red no matter who. I don't like either one of those type of people, but the leftists is even worse. What they do is, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It's, did you carry the party line? Look at BLM. BLM was found out to be grifters a long time ago because they went out and bought all this land and houses for themselves. The founders did. And even the IRS went after them and said, wait a minute, you can't do this. You can't raise funds and just buy property without having some sort of business in them. And they've yet to show any contributions to actual black agencies that could help people. So why are they still allowed to exist? Why are they still a political movement that people are lining up with? Simple. They're on the left, so they're instantly right. And it goes to those racial and cultural determinant boxes that they have on the left that the right really doesn't have. We just don't care. You roll forward. Well, the right. And I push myself in that place, but I'm actually farther right than that even. I would say I'm actually at the point of pure anarchy is the only thing that makes sense to me anymore. The government, if they're willing to lie about one thing, they're willing to lie about a lot more. If you look at these stories that are going around, you know why they're not saying those other balloons that they shot down are Chinese? Because they're afraid of the blowback from what happens if they admit that. If you admit that the Chinese can launch aircraft of any kind into American airspace and there's little to nothing you can do about it, what are you going to do about it? Exactly what we're seeing. So, it's, again, the 2A has nothing to do with hunting, and it's hilarious. I know I keep segueing to that, but why I'm segueing to it is this right here. This right here should give you enough pause to make you say anytime, or make you think every time one of these idiots say, hey, you don't need that to hunt deer. Well, it's not about hunting. Never was about hunting. And you're lying to the American people when you say it's about hunting in any way, shape, or form. If we wanted to hunt, we'd probably use bows or muzzleloaders or old school bolt-action rifles. The AR-15 makes a fine hunting rifle. I've killed deer with it before. My brother has. I know of people hunting coyotes and pigs and everything else with them, so it absolutely is a hunting rifle. But it is not designed for hunting. It's designed to defend yourself against a bad dude. And the government doesn't want you to have that ability because it puts you on parity with their stuff. What I really laugh at is what Colion Noir said a long time ago. He said, "You can't. They want you to stop having mil-spec guns." Well, let's be honest. Most of our friends and family in the 2A, our AR-15s are a hell of a lot better than what the American military has. Ours just don't have the giggle switch. Like, share, subscribe, rumble, comment if you like. Be great.